Most of my classmates are still living in the Chicago metropolitan area. And at this point in their life, it's safe to say that that's where they're staying. I mean, when you're in high school, you think you're going to do these great things. At the very least, you think you're going to get out of the crappy city you're in. At least, this was the case for kids in my area. But 12 years on, you can see the reality. Most are doing menial, working-class jobs and still living in the Chicagoland area. They couldn't do it. They couldn't get out. Somehow they got trapped there. For most, I'd say it's down to apathy. They were happy with their meager existence, so didn't try for more. On the other hand, I remember living there, and on a daily basis, I told myself I deserved better than this. Literally daily. I didn't like my job and I didn't like where I lived. So I made efforts to leave. And at 27, I really did it. I'm free of that place and those crappy jobs. I mean, here I'm ordering a Domino's pizza from Surrey, England. You know where these former classmates are ordering their Domino's from? Hammond, Chicago, Highland, Gary, etc. From Chicago or Northwest Indiana, basically. So yeah, they're all still in Chicago. So I kind of owned them. I don't mean that in an insulting way. Most of them were good people. I was not bullied or anything. But yeah, they couldn't do it. They lacked my passion, my drive, my daring, my courage. And now, family, jobs, they're not getting out of there. When you're in your mid-20s, I think it's important to roll the proverbial dice. Take a chance. Hop a steamer for Pago Pago. What do you have to lose? Even if it fails, you can still say, at least I tried. 5, 10, 20 years from now, do you want to look back and think, man, I should have just gone for it? Done some adventuring. Now it's too late? Of course you don't. Most people don't have the intestinal fortitude for such adventure. There are men and there are men. You know what I mean? We all know that America is a nation of immigrants. But what does this really mean? It means that every American past, present, and future either made the journey to America, or is a descendant of these bold pioneers. This sense of adventure is in the blood. Obviously, some people came to the U.S. as slaves, indentured servants, whatever. But these are still types of immigrants. And they experienced the immigrant hardships to an even greater degree than their free counterparts. I mean, speaking of freemen, obviously it's all relative. There were and are undoubtedly religious and/or economic and/or political motivations for many immigrants. But loads of people are suffering these same indignities. When the Pilgrims were being persecuted in England, they didn't all come to America. Very few did. The average, normal, fearful, slovenly stayed in England. The courageous came to America. Living free is a subject that I'm passionate about. I'm living it. I didn't let these shit jobs, and that shit city and that shit fraudulent loan get me down. I threw off the shackles of oppression, and traveled 5,000 miles to create and nurture my own personal freedom. Some people like to say, you should pay your bills. These people are harebrained cowards. They are suffering from the Stockholm Syndrome. They've identified with their captors, for example, Bank of America, Morgan Chase, etc. They're worried that my refusal to pay an unjust debt will mean that these big business owners will have to buy a 65-foot yacht rather than the 75-foot model. Then the whole fucking system will collapse. These soft thinkers don't know the history of their own country. The whole fucking country was founded on the basis of not paying unjust debts. In the first grade, this ideal is ground into the minds of every child in America. So you cannot chalk this one up to a poor education. Every American knows about this tax thing. Dudes didn't want to pay all these extra taxes that were being levied on them. So they picked up their guns and started shooting these soldiers. This is the founding of America. It seems to me that this pioneer spirit is dying. Dumbasses talking about paying your bills are only one example that illustrates this. It's very sad, but it's the way the winds are blowing.
I can guarantee you that there are some people in Surrey who wonder how great it would be to live in Calumet City like what they saw in that film The Blues Brothers. You exchanged one nowhere for another nowhere. Get real. I prefer home. The trick is to look for the best part of it and get it in the best way and end up with the best life you can whilst living there. All you have done is travel and stop. You are right back where you started, except that it is also somewhere that isn't home. I've spent all my life in the hills. What few times I've been out to where their flatlander types live, those snake pits they call cities, I've not been happy with the particular sense of reality I've found out there.
Of course there are people who wonder what it would be like to live in Calumet City, though probably not many. I've been there many times, and it's not great. Anyway, the goal isn't to find the best place in the world. If it were, I would have left London ages ago. It's all relative. So English people who want to check Calumet City out and actually do so would be just as bold as I am. This is what the pioneer spirit is all about, going to new places. I read an article a few days ago about Americans trying to find work abroad in order to improve their resumes. The idea being that employers would be impressed to see a candidate who was able to live and work in foreign environments. I think there is certainly something to this. I'd imagine that American employers would be bowled over if I went back there and showed them 5 years of UK work experience. People are impressed by this sort of thing. Pioneers are revered. Anyway, if you want to live in the same town you were born in, that's fine. I'm not knocking it. But some of us have a fiery sense of adventure in us. Some of us yearn for freedom. Some of us are outraged by the injustices in the world. Some of us will not be controlled. I speak of individual liberty. I'm not bound by the land and familial obligations and history, etc. I'm my own man. A free man. I embody the spirit of the great pioneers of the American frontier. It goes without saying that this makes me, frankly, a superior human being.
Fair enough. I have my own sense of adventure and yearning for freedom, same as you. I also have deep pagan urges and I know all the secret places in the land around me.